Hi, welcome to Kim Reads Urantia. Okay, and I'm going to read to you from the Urantia book. But first a small section from Light the Flame by Andrew Harvey. Okay, today's April 28th, and this is Rumi. Of course, most of us know Rumi. I don't know, I shouldn't say. I don't know. But he's a pretty famous Persian poet, and he lived in the 1200s. So this is pretty short. Okay, beloved, grace me your endless lavishness. Make me like your sun, pouring out life-giving splendor on good and evil alike. Okay, this is really short, but there's a lot in this. Okay. Grace me your endless lavishness. So this just shows God is so generous, so lavish, so generous, and with good and evil alike. So he's not only generous to the quote unquote good people, right? God is generous to everybody. He's very generous to the evil people. Because they have to choose the good way. You know, we have to choose the good way. It's no good to God unless we choose it. So he gives chances and chances and shows you the consequence. He's patient and he's lavish. And this is make me like your sun. S-U-N. That I'm radiating life-giving splendor on the good and on the evil, and anything in between. So transform me again, make me like you, and make me generous to both good and evil like you are. So let me be patient with those who do me wrong. Love your enemy, right? Right? Okay. And remember, that doesn't mean, see, I get confused for a while that I need to chase after the people that do me wrong to give them more chances to do right by me. I'm still here. Hey, hello. Do you want to be nice to me yet? I still love you. I still love you. Will you be nice to me now? And what happens is they poop on you and poop on you and poop on you. And it doesn't mean that. You're not supposed to chase after them and try to coddle up to your enemies, okay? And it doesn't mean that at all. It means let go. Let go. Don't try to punish them. Don't try to get revenge on them, but don't run after them. They'll come around in their own time, okay? You have to trust that you already made an impression on them. And when it's time to let go, you have to let go. That's hard. That was hard to learn, but I had to do it. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to read from the Urantia book. I'm going to read paper 2, The Nature of God. We're learning about the nature of God. And part 2 is the Father's eternal perfection. Okay. Even your olden prophets understood the eternal, never beginning, never ending, circular nature of the universal Father. He's a circle. It's not a square, right? Sorry for all you old hippies out there. Okay. God is literally and eternally present in his universe of universes. He inhabits the present moment with all his absolute majesty and eternal greatness. The Father has life in himself, and this life is eternal life. Throughout the eternal ages, it has been the Father who gives to all life. There is infinite perfection in the divine integrity I am the Lord, I change not. Okay. Okay. Um, we we spoke earlier. Now that doesn't mean that God doesn't go through kind of a cycle within, itself. It explains that kind of, but this cycle is repeatable, it's reliable. Um, yeah. Our knowledge of the universe of universes discloses not only that he is the father of lights, but also that in his conduct of interplanetary affairs there is no variableness, neither shadow of changing. Okay, because God is always God. There's never anything more than, God. God doesn't, yeah, it's always going to be our God. He declares the end from the beginning. He says, my counsel shall stand. I will do all my pleasures according to the eternal purpose which I proposed in my Son. Okay. Now that's proposed, not proposed, purposed. It was my purpose, purposed. So God's purpose is evident in his Son. Thus are the plans and purposes of the first source and center like himself, eternal, perfect, and forever changeless. There is finality of completeness and perfection of repleteness in the mandates of the Father. Whatsoever God does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. The Universal Father does not repent of his original purposes of wisdom and perfection. His plans are steadfast, his counsel immutable, while his acts are divine and infallible. 1,000 years in his sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night. 1,000 years in his sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night. The perfection of divinity and the magnitude of eternity are forever bound the full grasp of the circumscribed mind of mortal man. Are forever beyond, I said bound, I think. The perfection of divinity and the magnitude of eternity are forever beyond the full grasp of the circumscribed mind of mortal man. Okay, so we can't understand it. We have to let God be kind of mysterious. We have to appreciate that as part of our life. Mystery is a beautiful thing. Yeah. We can draw forth lots of potentiality from a mystery. Something that's known, closed, overdone. It's over. It's not interesting anymore. This way, God is forever fascinating to us and an object of our desire, because God remains this mystery. The reactions of a changeless God in the execution of his eternal purpose may seem to vary in accordance with the changing attitude and the shifting minds of his created intelligences. That is, they may apparently and superficially vary, but underneath the surface and beneath all outward manifestations, there is still present the changeless purpose, the everlasting plan of the eternal God. Okay, so the reactions of God in the execution of his purpose. So so it seems like he changes, but he doesn't. His plan is always the same. It's always he knows what's going to happen from, but he's not rigid, you know. When we think of a changeless God, we think of this rigid. See, and that's hard to marry that in my mind. I think of something that doesn't change. It's kind of like fixed, rigid. It's kind of mean, I mean, kind of, but God isn't like that because God reacts and responds and flows and ebbs, right? But these patterns here are all part of this plan. It's all incorporated into the plan from the beginning, and that doesn't change. Out in the universes, perfection must necessarily be a relative term. But in the central universe, and especially on paradise, perfection is undiluted. In certain phases, it is even absolute. Right. Trinity manifestations vary the exhibition of the divine perfection, but do not attenuate it. Okay, so Trinity manifestations vary the exhibition of divine perfection. So it can vary how we perceived it, but do not attenuate. I'm going to look up the word attenuate just for fun. Attenuate. Attenuate, to reduce the force or effective value of something. Okay, so something is attenuated is kind of reduces its effect. So yeah, God can show, and I always think God shows as much of his perfection to us as we can withstand, you know? God's so perfect you can't stand it. Did you ever have that person in your class who was so perfect, who's so great, you just couldn't stand to be around him? I mean, everybody loved this person. They got straight A's, they were good looking. All the girls wanted to go out with that if it's a guy, or or if it's a girl, she was so nice and she got great grades, but she's just so nice. And it's like there was somebody in my class like that I felt like that about. She's just the nicest, most beautiful girl, and I couldn't look at her. And I remember she tried to talk to me one time because we were lab partners once, and I looked at her and she's talking and I can't hear a dang thing she was saying. And you can't stand it. You can't stand it to be around even that. And that's not a perfect being. That's a human. But I mean, if you feel like that around perfect people or people that you perceive to be perfect, or if you ever have, a chance to see like a Hollywood star or something, and like you're like, oh my God, and you can't see them as a being, as you can't get past that. Um, it's really hard. So how much more can we not stand the perfection of God, right? God's primal perfection consists not in an assumed righteousness, but rather in the inherent perfection of the goodness of his divine nature. Right. He is final, complete, and perfect. Right, because it's not something, it's not an assumed righteousness. So it's not something, it's totally different when somebody's acting like, oh yeah, I'm so great. Yeah, I'm the captain of the team. Everybody loves me. I'm like, and they're so like, who are you? And they're totally like that. Okay, that, you can look at that and say like, oh yeah, okay, you're so great, huh? Right? But if somebody's really kind and really just, um, um, that's almost more humbling. It's more, yeah, because you can't put it together that this person is so beautiful, but yet they want to talk to you, you know, or that they're coming to your level or something, and you can't put that together. Yeah, there is no thing lacking in the beauty and perfection of his righteous character. And the whole scheme of living existences on the worlds of space is centered in the divine purpose of elevating all will creatures to the high destiny of the experience of sharing the Father's paradise perfection. God is neither self-centered nor self-contained. Okay, figure that one. He's not self-centered. He's not all about himself. He's not self-contained. So, I don't know, he never ceases to bestow himself upon all self-conscious creatures of the vast universe of universes. So he shares of his own nature all the time. God is eternally and infinitely perfect. He cannot personally know imperfection as his own experience, but he does share the consciousness of all the experience of imperfectness of all the struggling creatures of the evolutionary universes, of all the paradise creator sons. So he shares in that experience when we're going like, I can't, you know what I mean? I'm not good enough to even talk to you. Or it's like, I don't know why you want to talk to me. He's there, he's trying to talk to us, and we have this, experience where it's like, I can't hear what you're saying. I can't, you're just totally stuck in this. He's just waiting for us to understand that he made us to talk with him and to share with him, and that we are good enough, and that we're growing, we're advancing, and our destiny is to be perfect like he is. So he's just waiting for us to get past that brain lapse. It's just like, when you're talking to that totally beautiful person is having some kind of regard for you, and you're going like, how's that even possible? I can't hear anything. I don't understand any of it. Right. So he shares that experience with us, and he knows that we're struggling with this realization that he wants to talk with us. The personal and liberating touch of the God of perfection overshadows the hearts and encircles the natures of all those mortal creatures who have ascended to the universe level of moral discernment. In this manner, as well as through the contacts of the divine presence, the universal Father actually participates in the experience with immaturity and imperfection in the evolving career of every moral being of the entire universe. Okay. So yeah, he's just being patient, and he experiences that with us. That feeling of kind of like it's like, why you want to talk to me? It's like, I don't know why you want to have anything to do with me. And I was there for so long, I didn't even know. That's the part I really couldn't imagine. I could imagine God working in the world and God doing stuff, but I couldn't imagine that God really wanted anything to do with me. How I could be really personally valuable to God, you know. That still kind of blows my mind. And he's like that with everybody because he's just that big. Human limitations, potential evil, are not a part of the divine nature, but mortal experience with evil and all man's relations thereto are most certainly a part of God's ever expanding self realization in the children of time, creatures of moral responsibility who have been created or evolved by every creator son going out from paradise. Okay, so I don't think God experiences evil with us, but in order for us to experience evil, we have to first disconnect with that God part here. We have to disconnect with that or turn that off and then go into, and I think that the thought adjuster probably is perceiving some part of us going into a darkness where they don't know what we're doing, what we're thinking, because they can't experience that part with us because that's pure, that's God. But they perceive in us kind of like a shutting off. Of that. Okay, so part of our biggest challenge, I think, as humans is to just keep that channel on. Keep it on. Okay, and that's hard because when you're picking your nose, when you're taking a dump or whatever, you got to understand God is with you when you're doing that, when you're thinking all those, nasty thoughts. Okay, you can't do that if you're in the presence of God. You literally can't. I mean, try to perceive at the same time that you're in the presence of God. Some people do that, but that's not God they're really in the presence of. They like I don't know, the mean Christians that think that they're holier than everybody else and God is actually there to avenge them of all the people done them, all this. Okay, so that's not God that they're tuning into. They're tuning into something, the spirit of something, but it's not God. That's kind of scary. Yeah, so if you can, there you go, that's a good acid test. So if you can do that and think about God and think about things that are not very nice at the same time, then that's not God. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave that there. Of course, these are all my opinions. Again, here, you don't have to agree with me. I'm just talking. I just talk. And hopefully what I say is kind of interesting. Maybe. Okay. Have a really good day. Bye.